Hello again, everybody. Coming at you from Gettysburg this afternoon, and here on July 2nd, 2020. Now I'm going to talk about one of the more interesting subjects here at Gettysburg, and certainly one of the more controversial subjects, and that is the movement out of the 3rd Corps to the Peach Orchard. Now, this movement is highly controversial because it is the linchpin for a lot of what happens on the second day in the afternoon and the evening, and has everything to do with one man, a man by the name of Daniel Edgar Sickles. Sickles was a New Yorker born in 1819. He was not a professional military man. In fact, he became a lawyer, okay? And as being a lawyer, naturally, he got involved in politics and became involved with the Tammany Hall political organization in New York City. When the Civil War breaks out, he is already a tarnished man. Before the war, he gets embroiled in a personal affair that his wife is having with the son of Francis Scott Key, the composer of the Star-Spangled Banner poem that became the national anthem. Philip Barton Key was the attorney for the District of Washington, D.C. And so, basically, Sickles' wife gets involved with him. Sickles confronts Key in Lafayette Square in front of the White House and shoots Key dead in front of everybody. Okay, at his trial, he is actually acquitted of the charges by the reason of temporary insanity. Alright? Temporary insanity. That was the first time that is often claimed in American jurisprudence that had happened. Not really. There were a couple other trials that had done that beforehand, but this was the most high-profile case because it featured Sickles, who was at that time a congressman, and the United States Attorney, Philip Barton Key. And so it was a huge deal. It was the trial of the century to that point. And so Sickles got off. Now, he didn't get scandalized for killing Key. He got scandalized for accepting his wife back afterwards. She was a tarnished woman, and by the kind of standards of the time, he more or less, by accepting her back, tarnished himself as well, and questions started to be raised. Well, why did he kill Key in the first place? Why didn't he just confront him? And so, yes, by the time the Civil War comes around, Sickles is, well, does not have the best reputation. But the Civil War comes around, and guess what happens? Washington, and specifically Lincoln administration, is looking for Democratic allies, Democrats. And Sickles is a Democrat, so he offers to raise a brigade of New York regiments. Their monument is right here. That's the Excelsior Brigade, all right? He'll raise this regiment, and then he'll be given its command, made a brigadier general. Well, he becomes a brigadier general in the division of Joseph Hooker in the 3rd Corps. Makes friends with Joseph Hooker. That's the thing about Sickles. He had a talent for making friends in the right places. And without a lot of military experience, he is then elevated to division command after Hooker is promoted to Corps command. And then he is then promoted to Corps command when Hooker becomes the Army commander in 1863. Now, he fights at Chancellorsville with his Corps, where he also does something controversial, but also something happens there as well. He abandons a position called Hazel Grove by orders that the Confederates use as an artillery platform then on his men and brutally maul the 3rd Corps. This is going to inform his decision making. So at Gettysburg, he's going to come in with his 3rd Corps. And George Gordon Meade essentially is instructing him to be in that far wood line. You see where that stone monument is in the distance? To extend the 2nd Corps line all the way over almost to Little Round Top. There in the distance, there where my finger is pointing. All right, Sickles looks at this. It's heavily forested then as it is now. And he goes, I don't like this position. It's not good for artillery. But do you know what position is good for artillery? This one. Yeah, boy. Right here is the Sherfy farm. That right there. The buses go by. with the Sherfy barn. And that is the Sherfy peach orchard. So he's going to start asking George Gordon Meade, the Army commander, hey, you know, I got this position. I'm worried about my position, where he put me. Hey, can I go out there to a new position? He starts kind of needle Meade time and again throughout the morning of July 2nd, even meeting with Meade. And eventually Meade goes basically say, just occupy the position I have assigned for you. Sickles is not content with that. He rides out with the chief of artillery to basically this position where I'm at right now and says, well, you know, Chief of Artillery, Henry Hunt, they didn't refer to him as that. He just say, you know, General Hunt, what do you think of this position? And Hunt says, well, you know, it is a better position than the one down there, but if you don't occupy those far wood line and the Confederates do, you've got problems. So Sickles is going to push forward one regiment and some sharpshooters into that distant wood line. They're going to run into some Confederates. They're going to come back. They're going to tell Sickles there are Confederates in those woods. That's going to make Sickles nervous. He thinks the Confederates are going to be moving into this position to put artillery up here to bombard him down there. And so without orders, right about this time of day, in parade fashion, the men of the 3rd Corps are going to march over those fields to this spot. It is an impressive sight. Men of the 2nd Corps who are up there on that ridge where you see the monuments are going to be like, whoa, that's pretty impressive. Hancock is going to, who's the commander of the 2nd Corps, is Winfield Scott Hancock, is going to say, well, yeah, that's beautiful, but, you know, he's going to be coming out back here pretty soon. Now, the historian Shelby Foote in the Ken Burns documentary basically foreboding, he's going to be crushed, so he's going to come back. Now, I think it was more Hancock was commenting possibly that Meade is probably going to bring him back. And sure enough, the chief engineer of the Army is going to go to headquarters, tell Meade that Sickles has come out here and done this, and Meade is going to ride out to this position to confer with Sickles. Now, if you look, it's a pretty open position. It's a higher position. But is it a better position? That's the question, and that's what makes this controversial. Because what Sickles has done, his line is basically going to end at that distant red barn. But his line is going to be disconnected from the rest of the 2nd Corps over there. Moreover, he's not going to have any support on this side of the battlefield, and he's on covered Little Round Top. So, he's out here by himself. He's exposed. He's stretched himself too thinly. And so Meade is going to ride out here and confer with Sickles. Now, Sickles is going to more or less establish his headquarters at that barn down there called the Trossel Barn of the Trossel Farm. And so he's going to be down there as well. But Meade is going to come out here. He's going to ride out here. He's going to confer with Sickles. And I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that conversation, because it was not a happy conversation. Sickles is going to argue to me that this is a better position. Right in front of us, where I'm standing, is a better position than the one he was directed to go back there. And so he was justified in doing this. That's what we know of the conversation. Now, we don't know the rest of the conversation, but eventually, though, at 3 p.m., the Confederate artillery is going to open up on this position. Right after Sickles has said, should I move my corps back? That's when the Confederate artillery opens fire. That precedes the assault that Longstreet is going to execute that day. Meade is going to tell Sickles, I wish to God you could, but they won't let you. With that, Meade is going to ride off and try to find support for Sickles and his beleaguered soldiers. That's the movement out to the peach orchard. I thank you for watching, and more videos to come.